Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to 40 Years and 40 Beers. Here's always is Bobby and Joe Massey. We are here with a very special guest this week, Port Richmond's finest, Amanda Yoa. Welcome, Amanda.
Amanda, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. We really appreciate you finding some time to come on. You know, for what we've seen on your social media pages, you're certainly extremely busy.
Yeah.
So we really want to thank you for making the time.
No problem. I love being able to chat it up when I can. I love doing stuff like this. So to me, it's, it's all part of it. I enjoy it. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Joey and I have both seen the content, the recent content, I would say, over the past year that's become really famous. But one thing I really want to get into, that we want to get into, is how this all started. You know, you're from Port Richmond, born and raised, your whole life, St. Anne's Parish, I believe, right?
St. Anne's, yep.
St. Anne's Parish.
Our CYO All-Star. Shout out.
Nice. Love it. Love the CYO. And you kind of just, in 2019 started creating content. How did this all come about?
Yeah, I was like one of them kids. I don't know. It probably has a lot to do with my ADHD, but kind of like didn't know what was for me in life. And I really started getting I was in a really bad place, like right before I had my daughter, like mentally, I suffer from like depression, anxiety and all that. So, I went through just kind of like trying to heal myself in my life and just kind of like found my way through, working on myself. And I wanted to start off like a platform paying that forward. So that was kind of like my beginning point for all that. And then it kind of just went from there. It's long story short, that's the gist of it.
Really, that's interesting. So I guess some folks would take the approach of like venting about their depression or using a social media platform, to complain or rant. But you did the opposite, it sounds like, right? It sounds like you made peace with whatever was going on, and then you started using social media in a positive way instead.
Yeah, like, just kind of being real and sharing my experiences and the things that I went through in life to just let people know. Because I think sometimes people get embarrassed or, maybe look back at the things they did in life for whatever reason and feel ashamed or, so they never address it. It never gets dealt with and they never heal and they live for, their whole entire life sometimes or, sadly end up taking their lives due to that. So I thought, if I could just be vulnerable and real with people and just share what I went through and what helped me, if it can help somebody else, then, that's a job well done in my book. And, the thing that got me caught up in that was, you see all these like quote unquote life coaches and things. And they always to me, they always had to show up like prim and proper. And I found myself like putting myself in that box and showing up became so hard. And I'm like, you know what? This really isn't fun. Like, granted, I know I'm meant to impact people's lives and brighten their day, but I don't think this is the route for me. So let's find, what's for me. And honestly, it was just like bringing me to the table. Cause I think the only thing that was missing from that was my personality, which I've just always been a funny person. So, and I guess I had a little bit of, along the way, building up that confidence to take social media platform to put myself out there that way, the way that I do now. If I look back like 3 years from now and saw the things that I'm doing now, I'd probably like, Jesus Christ, what the hell are you doing?
Never what I mean? In a million years. Yeah.
Right. But it just goes to show like what that, when you do that work on yourself, the things, what's possible and what you can do for yourself.
So was there ever a time in your content creation where you felt like, this isn't going right, maybe I should just give this up. I feel like I'm not getting the amount of views, the amount of followers that I should be getting. And the reason I'm asking that question is one thing Joey and I kind of live by, in our, dive into this world is the one more day attitude. It may not be going great today, but let's give it one more day. Let's go one more day. Was there ever a time in your life doing this that happened?
Yeah, and I for sure. And I think at first when it wasn't working out for me was because I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. So fast forward now that I'm doing what I'm doing, I will say the more you put yourself out there and the more success that comes your way, the more doubt comes your way. And it's just a mindset piece. It's like, okay, you're bringing like who you are to what you do, like not to get woo woo here, but I'm down with the woo. I don't know if you boys are, but I'm down with the woo. Okay. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Catholic girl, but I also do believe in like manifestation and all that. But I do keep it real and also say like the universe ain't your waitress. So you got to work for what you want in life. They're not just going to hand it to you on a silver platter. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always like whenever you're doing something, you have to bring that piece of who you are to that doing. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. So for me, it's always that mindset because right now I'm doing things that are definitely out of my comfort zone. Definitely something that my peers and the people I grew up with are not doing. Definitely, it's out of the box. So it's a constant, always working on my mindset, especially when you also get like the haters come out of the woodwork, like cockroaches. They'll be the first ones to doubt you. And, to that, I just say it's really just a reaction to you doing something that they wouldn't have the balls to do themselves. So in that moment, you got to tap in and ask yourself, like, who am I invested in here? Am I invested in this person that's not doing the work on themselves? Or am I invested in me? Right. So I'm always going to choose me 100% of the time. But it really comes down to just constantly keeping up with that mindset. And it's a constant battle.
You know what? We talk about this all the time, especially when there's haters on your reels, right? Or on your page. There's no such thing as bad engagement.
Yeah. I say it all the time. I'm like, thanks for the engagement, hon.
Yeah.
You believe the things I get. It's crazy. But people are like, you're not from Philly. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, with that accent, you're not from Philly. No, can't be.
Yeah. Or this is such a fake, I get like, this is such a fake accent. I'm like, all right, hon, have a good one.
But it doesn't make it any easier to let it roll off your back, though. You know what I mean?
It's definitely not. No. Yeah.
And
which
it's
is why like the mindset's important. Yeah.
It's interesting you said that once you started being you and doing something you loved, then things started to change. But you're also saying that you're doing something out of your comfort zone. It's weird that being us is outside of our own comfort zone. You know what I mean? I think it's the fact that it's online and you're giving a version of yourself to the entire world. But that's what makes it difficult, right? And that's why people like yourself kind of shine after a while when you figure out that, yes, it's out of my comfort zone, but I'm being me, and everyone deserves to kind of see some of this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I there's going to be people, like I said, that take it one of two ways. They're either going to be inspired or they're going to be triggered. And that really just boils down to them having the willingness to work on themselves through, being inspired by your content, or they can choose to stay stuck and, be the hater in the comments. And you just say, thanks for the engagement.
Yeah.
So you're Port Richmond born and raised. Take us through growing up in Port Richmond. I mean, was it the typical inner city Philadelphia lifestyle? Like, Massey and I are both Southwest Philly born and raised. But I always tell people this. Our pocket of Southwest was a little strange. We had grass. We had lawns. It was really, really weird, like where we were.
Okay.
So
what neighborhood?
We didn't have like we lived in row homes, but you'd come out of our row home and there'd be a lawn in front of the row home.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Little patch, little block of grass up front. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little different.
My mom is still there off of Island Avenue out by the airport.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know where that's at. Yeah, like there's spots like Mayfair that are like that too. They got their little patch of grass.
That's where it's the same exact setting.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was kind of like the way it was.
Back in the day, those were always the people with money. Like, oh, they live up in Mayfair. They have a nice little front lawn. Now you go up there, it's a totally different world. I mean, everything's changed. It's crazy, But growing up in Port Richmond, I loved it. As a kid, it was such a good time. I love talking about back in the day, going to your corner store, your neighbors, everyone looked out for each other. Everyone knew everybody, sometimes a little too much because you knew everyone's business, And
reprimanded by the neighbors.
Right. I was just going to say, I had this one lady that lived across the street, God bless her. But she used to rattle me every time I did something to my mom. And I'm like, why can't she just mind her business,
Yeah,
but
she's your mom's friend and she was working for your mom.
Yeah. I'm like, she's always in my business. But, that's just how people were. They looked out for one another. It was a sense of community that I feel like is still there, but it's dwindled a little bit. I know there's people within the community that I grew up with that are now trying to just hold that torch and keep that Port Richmond pride, of just tradition and that sense of community and togetherness. Because I got to tell you, as time went on, you have these people that move in. And don't get me wrong, they've brought some great, businesses and places to the neighborhood that we never had. But on the same token, they're just not, when you're not from the area, it's hard to kind of I guess, get people to, It's like, this is how we do things around here, hon. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they kind of keep to themselves. They're not very neighborly, at least from what I saw. Maybe some are, but from the ones I've interacted with, they're not very neighborly. They keep to themselves.
You can say it, the hipsters. You can say it.
Yes, the yuppies.
Yeah.
The yuppies, yes. And
Yeah.
God bless you, you know.
When you're
'cause you
not cut from that cloth, yeah,
Right.
it's different. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, it's lost it's not what it used to be when I was younger, my neighborhood, but it still has those like gems that just make Port Richmond what it is. I love my neighborhood. My family still lives there. My grandmother's still there. My mom's still there. You know, I got tons of relatives that live in the area and we're always there. Our business is there. We own a restaurant like your typical cheesesteak, wings, hoagies in Port Richmond.
Nice.
So we're
That's
always in
great.
the neighborhood. Yeah.
What's the name?
The Fresh Works of Port Richmond.
Beautiful. We'll have to make sure we
I
plug that.
saw,
Thank you.
I forget the guy's name. I saw somebody on social media talking about the Cooper to John sandwich at Freshworks. Yeah, that's awesome. And I saw you have the shirts on every now and again in your videos.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
That's a
awesome.
good sandwich. I can't really do it because it gives me heartburn.
Yeah.
I got a bad relationship with hot stuff, but everyone raves over it.
But Freshworks is your family's place.
Yep. My husband and I own it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that
we've
is
been-
awesome.
Yeah, we've been there since I want to say 2011, right off on Belgrade Street. So this is a confrontational, and let me know if this was like how it was in your neighborhood, gentlemen. But growing up, like certain parts of the neighborhood were known as like Port Richmond. Now you go there, and these people that move in, these yuppies, right? They try to like rename things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, so if you look across the street from our restaurant, there's this welcome sign. It says, "Welcome to Old Richmond." And I'm like, why are you trying
Who
to
the hell are
slap
you?
I
Yeah,
thought you were
like-
going to say lower Port Richmond.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like and they do this to the area. And I know it's probably just so they can sell a house for $100,000 more than they originally could be able to.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same token, I'm like, who the hell are you to come in and change our name?
Yeah.
So there's certain but even back in the day, like certain people would say like Fishtown started at York Street or Fishtown started at Lehigh Ave. There was always a constant battle. We always knew it from like the playground. So like Sion, I grew up, I spent a lot of times, I was raised partially by my grandparents. So I spent a lot of times by Sion, but then my mom lives over by Cahox. So I was like split between the both.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's an ongoing battle of, what is my neighborhood anymore? I don't even
That's
know.
how it
Yeah.
was in Southwest. Southwest was
Is
all
it?
playgrounds too. You were either from
Yeah.
you were from Finnegan's, or you were from
Right.
Elmwood Park, or you were from McCreesh or 63rd Street. Right, those were the four.
Yep.
You'd be like, "Oh yeah, I live near 63rd Street. I live near McCreesh." Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Either
tried
that-
to, there was a section called Eastwick. But if you're familiar with South Philly at all, South Philly has Packer
Mhm.
Park, right? Where the stadium and the lake is and stuff.
Then they have Pennsport down near 2nd Street.
Yeah.
And they tried to label a section of Southwest as East Packer Park. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like you're
Right.
saying, like Old Richmond. Yeah.
yeah. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't
Just
know.
call it Southwest and call it Port Richmond.
It was
Right.
just Southwest to us. Yeah. Yeah.
So where my restaurant is, a lot of people who just move in, they'll say, "Oh, I live in Fishtown," and you're like, "No, you really don't. You live in Port Richmond." But if you want to think that, God bless.
Yeah.
I'm curious because my husband's in the string band, so he's in South Philly String Band. That's but that's not like where all the like on 2nd Street
Mhm.
where all the clubs are. He's in like Grace Ferry. It's like 20. What is he on Porter Street?
Yeah, probably like 29th,
Yeah.
29th quarter, somewhere around
20th.
there.
I think he's like 20th and Porter.
20th
Yeah,
and quarter. Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
we're
I
down there a
march.
lot.
I'm in the Mars.
Are you free?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I march with Finnegan. I march with Finnegan. We always were at the comics. We get in trouble a lot.
Oh, no. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but we actually won last year, first time ever.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice, congrats.
So after you start your content and you're putting yourself out there, you transitioned into a more comedic avenue. And this was when? This was still before Port Richmond Pam, right? You were doing other comedic bits before you
Oh, yeah.
introduced Pam. Okay. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of it really just evolved over time. And for me, I think it was just like, okay, I'm slowly stepping out of my comfort zone and letting people see me for who I truly am. I've always been that type of person where, I walk into the room, I'm not the life of the party. I'm let me scope this joint out and see what's going on, see who I'm going to vibe with, see who I'm not. And then once you get to know me, then I'm usually like, okay, let me grab the mic and sing a song. So I don't know why I'm like that. I've just always been like that. So I've really worked on myself to like just drop that, barrier that I always had. So I think the evolution of that just kind of brought me to where I am today of just, not really caring what people think. And like I said, the mindset, working on myself and the things that I want to do in my life, having a clear vision of what that is, I think all kind of brought me to where I am today and just, making things fun. I always, for me, comedy was always something that soothed my soul. I always like grew up. My uncle was like 17 when I was born. I lived in my grandparents with my mom, my aunt, my uncle, and he was always watching Saturday Night Live. I probably shouldn't have been watching half of the shit that I was watching at such a young age, but I'm thankful for it because I have all those like old school influences like Eddie Murphy and, all the old timers from Saturday Night Live that people probably my age, I'll be 40 in January, wouldn't have, So I'm grateful that he allowed me to watch those things that probably as a kid I shouldn't have been watching because I probably wouldn't be here if that was the case.
When you look at your latest video, and then you look at your first video and you see how different they are. Did you, because one of the things Bobby and I struggle with is like, well, okay, now we're going to make an adjustment and things are going to be a little bit different than they ever were before. And we struggle with how that gets received and how we, that plays into like the brand and whatever you're trying to accomplish. Do you have that same conversation with yourself? Like starting out in 2019 and now it's you and Pam and this whole different vibe. Present day, do you feel like that progression was natural or did you have any doubts about what people would think as they're following you from start to finish?
Yeah, I definitely had doubts. I definitely had like, I wonder what people are going to think, but I think what kind of, I think if you don't talk about it, it's going to eat you up. So I've always been one to just keep it very real on my social media. Like I just recently rebranded for like the third time for my show. I started out as Empowered Hype House. And then most recently, I was Unzipped with Amanda Yoa. And then this season, I rebranded because I just wanted a cohesive brand across the board of my name. So now it's Amanda Yoa. And I was very, transparent on my first episode. Now I said, you're probably wondering what the hell is this girl doing? Like she's rebranded. And to that, I say, I get sick of shit quick. What do you want me to do? Like you should know the deal by now because you build that relationship with your community to where they get to know you at such a deep level that you really don't have to explain yourself. So, that's why I try to like just have that close relationship with my community because then they understand when I do the shit that I do. And if not, I come on and I share, what happened, what went down.
Yeah. See, what I just say to people like that is I'm like, well, see, here's the thing. It's my show. So fuck off.
Right. And your people will appreciate that. They'll appreciate your attitude. They'll appreciate who you are because you've built that relationship with them. So, I just feel if you don't talk about it, it's going to eat you up inside. So you might as well just be like, listen, I got tired of it or this is where we are now. It's just all part of the evolution of, specifically when it comes to the podcasting world. Yeah.
All right. So you're doing all these comedic bits, and you're trying to think of what works. And then all of a sudden, if I remember from our pre-interview, it was basically around the Eagles going to the Super Bowl in December, all of the hype surrounding it, that you decide to take a leap and introduce this, what I would call an amazing fucking character. All right. Port Richmond.
Thank you.
How did this come about? Because again, I friggin' spit my beer out sometimes, Amanda. I really do. I crack up.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have to say, I wish I had like a great story as to where she evolved, but it was just from a girls' weekend. I did this character and her name was Marianne, and she had a similar wig to Pam, but it was kind of like Dolly Parton, but brown. Because I was like, I can't pull off blonde. I walked around with this wig and I had this personality the whole weekend. And we were up in the Poconos. That's the mountains for those of you who may not know. But we're partying up there and we're house hopping. And we walked into this room and it was just all these people who had no idea who I was. So I was going up to people and talking to them with a Southern accent. And I'm like, how you doing, sugar? My name's Marianne. The whole night. And I was dancing and no one had a clue who I was. And that's kind of where it took. I was like, you know what? That was a lot of fun. Like, and the girl, like all my girlfriends enjoyed it. Like we were just dying laughing. But I thought to myself, I'm not like really connected to the South. So what can I do that I would really be able to immerse myself in? And I thought, why not just do my mom? You know?
Yeah.
So Pam is a take on my mom, my grandmother, and I feel like all encompassing. I can't say everything that I've ever done has come from my mom and grandmom, but it's just growing up around your friends' parents, like that generation
Absolutely.
of the Philly mom. So, you know, everybody has their version of the Philly mom. I know there's other people that out there that do it, and it's no knock to them. This is just my version. And if you resonate with it, that's great. I say, you know, I'm from Port Richmond, which is primarily like Polish, Irish, German. And then my mom found the one Mexican in the neighborhood. And here I am.
Yeah, because Joey's mom's 100% Italian. Like you're talking about the moms. Like I wish somebody would do a character about her. She's very, very loud Italian. Everything's like a nuclear bomb went off, you know?
I mean, I got to tell you, through this, there's so many people that relate to Pam and try to put a location on her. I've even gotten Baltimore, which I never even knew. Did you know this? Like Baltimore and Philly have similar accents?
I don't think so.
No.
Because I'm obsessed with The Wire. And I don't think we talk alike at all.
Yeah.
So I see some similarities. I feel like the wording's a little different, but they kind of sound like us. And people were like, is this Baltimore? And I'm like, what the hell is everyone talking about? Baltimore? No.
Yeah.
So I YouTubed it and I was like, holy shit, they do kind of sound like us.
I just heard it when you said Baltimore.
Yeah,
because we say Baltimore and they say Baltimore.
Yeah.
So
maybe
mom
like
and grandma say Baltimore. Baltimore. Yeah. No, I see some of my mom and my mom's friends in Pam, not entirely, but yeah, you being from South Philly and Southwest, you could totally make the connection. You know, she's somebody I've ran into a million times as a kid. You know what I mean?
Right. I tell my mom, like, I know I got ratted on a lot, Mom. Like, but if you knew half the shit that I did as a kid, I shimmied up an alleyway the one time all the way onto a roof to get a ball because we roofed our ball playing stick ball. And I grew up like, I was kind of like that guy's gal, that tomboy, I guess you could say. Always hanging with the boys. Like, and if you told me I couldn't do something, that was kind of like my switch.
Yeah, to do it.
Yeah. And I shimmied my ass up on the alleyway. Like sometimes you have that separation between row homes. It's a little alley.
Yeah.
And it's just enough space to put your back and your feet. And I shimmied all the way up to the roof and got our ball. And I shit myself coming back down and scraped my whole back.
You know what's funny? We just had a conversation with somebody from Southwest that was saying, do you remember growing up as a kid and then that one day there'd be somebody who was getting their roof retard and you sat there and just waited because the roof worker would walk the entire roof and get all the balls and throw them down? It was like the greatest day on earth. And then trying to get the ball out of the sewer. Like our kids are never going to experience that. Like I remember being halfway down there with somebody hanging me by my feet and I'm halfway into the sewer. You know what I mean?
With a wire hanger and a hockey stick. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just, our kids are, you know, they're inside too much now.
They are on the tablets and all the things. It's crazy. I will say like where we live, I have a good group of kids. So I've kind of like gotten them to play wiffle ball outside. So we got like a whole team going. Like I'll go out there sometimes with them and play. So it gives them like, oh, this is fun. Like mom's out here with us, you know?
So there's something I just noticed. And I think I understand now why Pam works so well and is so incredible. What? She's really not that much different than you.
Yeah, I know. See?
The voice is not, I think what happens.
Tell me because I need to know.
I think
what's the secret?
I think you just I think all you really do is enunciate a little bit more when you're when you're recording, right? When you're putting the bits together. But I'm watching your mannerisms. I'm listening to the words you use. I'm listening to your voice. And I'm like, you know what? It works so well because she's just really being herself.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And that
you? Don't tell anybody else. Are lots of Pam's videos like a better recreation of actual things you've seen your mom and grandmother do over the years? Because the one I saw today, I don't know when it came out, but you're calling Denise about your husband's teeth, the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Like, I could totally, it's so down to earth. Like, I could hear my mom complaining about, I'm not covering it. You better hope the insurance company will. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That thing never happen with the teeth, but just the like back and forth between is definitely a lived experience.
Yeah.
Between whether it was my mom and my dad or my grandmother and grandfather. I always said, because like when I was in my college years, I lived with my grandparents, and I wish I had like a camera, and I wish like the internet was what it is today back then, because I would have a whole series of like real life Pam.
Yeah.
And,
the family is funny for sure. Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And, it's the truth, because people come on my page and they're like, this is my childhood. This is great. And they laugh their asses off, But yeah, I will say Pam is not far off from me. I think the cigarette for me is what enables me to get in character, because I think that's truly what separates us. Certain words are said a little different because you have the cigarette lisp, because it's always in my mouth.
Have you have you been using the same pack of smokes since December?
So this is what I do. I just talked about this week on my show. So my mom smokes Marlboro Lights. That's where I get my pack from. So I ask her for my empty every time, like if it's worn out, I'm like, give me an empty pack, like a new one. And then I just go on that Amazon and order like cheap herb cigarettes.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, that being said, don't get me wrong. I do enjoy a drunk cig every now and then.
Yeah.
I'm my mother's child. I'm my grandfather's grandchild. Like, it's in a long line of chain smokers. So I chose, like, I don't smoke in real life, but I do love a drunk cig every now and then with the girls. But that's what I do. I just buy the cheap cigs online and just put them in the pack. Yeah.
That's funny. I got to tell you, I just saw the one video and I thought it was something we could all relate to, being from Philly. I think it was pretty recent, where you're having a party and you're talking about, I think it was for the Eagles, and you're talking about how who's bringing the potatoes out, and you have Miller Lite and some Coors Light. And I guess your uncle wants to come, and you're like, yeah, I guess he can come, but tell him I don't want any acting up. Last time he was acting up all drunk and went through the table, and then you're doing the thing with your hands. I mean, we've all been
Everybody's got that one guy.
Like, oh my God.
Arguing on the phone in silence. Yeah.
So most, like you said, most of the videos are, basically, especially the family ones. The family ones, I think, are the ones that hit home the most, right? I think those are the best. And then you also had a really interesting experience recently for your channel, which was you went down to North Wildwood as Pam.
Oh, yeah.
And from what I saw out of that,
you need to settle down with those jumbo mozzarella sticks on the boardwalk. But other than that,
oh my God, did you see that thing?
Yeah.
Well, that was actually at a festival in my neighborhood, but that thing was so good, so good.
That's awesome.
Were you amazed at how many people like knew who you were? I mean, because obviously you have a tremendous amount of followers already, but when you go into a crowd like that, people aren't really worried about Pam walking around. At least you don't think that. And then all of a sudden, the reaction, was it just like, shit, this is really taking on a life of its own?
Honestly, I will say my first realization of that was Memorial Day weekend. We did a parade in Bridesburg. They always have a huge Memorial Day parade. Okay. So we made a float, and it was for me and our business, and we were throwing shirts, and we had music going, and I was on the back of the float dressed up as Pam. And I got to be honest, a part of me was like, listen, this is either going to go one of two ways. And either way, who cares? They're either going to look at me and be like, who's this lady with the glasses and the wig with the cigarette hanging out of her mouth? Or everybody's going to know who I am. So that was my first time stepping out as her. And I was shocked at how many people knew her, like stopping for pictures. Like, I just didn't think that she'd be that recognizable that quickly. But it surprised me. So like, now you'd be surprised. I really can't go anywhere without somebody stopping me. Like, we were just at a Phillies game. I have people that come up to me, even when I'm not dressed like her. Like, I'll be like this.
Do you have to carry the wig and cigarette with you?
I try not to, because then people definitely will know who I am. But like, even when, me and my family's at the Phillies game, I had a few people come up to me. They're like, you're Pam, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And they, they want a picture, which I love. I love it. But it's just crazy that, so much, she's so recognizable. I feel like it kind of happened like really quickly, because I will say, like, she really popped off when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. Like, during that whole hype, we were really pumping out the videos, and I think that's what really made her recognizable. You know what I love the most? And the first time I ever got this, it made me cry. It really did. Because it wasn't something that And it goes for, I'm sure, what you guys do too. What you expect or when you're doing something, I think sometimes ends up being beyond your expectations. Like for me with Pam, I just wanted to make people laugh. And I remember the first time I got a comment on one of my Pam videos from a woman who said that her mother was passed away. And whenever she misses her mom, she comes on and watches my videos because it helps her with her grief. I read that. I mean, I still get goosebumps when I say that. And I get comments like that very often that I remind people of their parents or their aunts or whoever, someone that's not here anymore. I never expected that from this at all. But it's beyond my expectations in the most positive way. And I think for me, that's when I really when Adrian's laying in the bed and Rocky goes over to her and she's like, come here, win. And the bell dings and it's like, what are we waiting for? Like, that was my moment with that, I'm like, holy shit, this is like something big for people other than laughs, so whatever doubt I had at that time, which believe me, I've had some there, you're going to get your doubters, your haters from the people that are the closest to you, which can be like hurtful. And I think in that moment, I needed that the most. So I love being able to provide that to people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, maybe Pam kind of popped overnight, but it was because Amanda was grinding for 7+ years. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it wasn't really overnight. But no, I get that. Yeah, one comment like that probably washes out all the negativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Who do people dislike more? Like when we talk about haters, the negative comments, the people who have trouble with what you do, like the people who are stuck, like we were saying earlier, who do they dislike more? The regular Amanda videos or the Pam videos?
I get the most hate probably on my Pam videos.
Yeah.
And it's not anything crazy. It's just people who, try to say this isn't relatable. And I just got to a point where I really don't. I'm like, thanks for the engagement, keep it rolling or whatever. I think that's probably the extent of it that I get. I will say the worst hate that I think I've ever received was like I said, it really goes to when someone you don't know says something to you, it's not going to hit as deep as if you were to receive it from somebody that's in your life.
Right.
So I've gotten hate from people when I first started doing Pam. And even as, I've gone on doing Pam, I've gotten hate from some people that I would at least expect it from, but they were people that matter to me. They were in my circle. Mm-hmm. That cuts the deepest. And that's I feel like when doubt really comes in, because you look at those people, they're your peers, right? They're your equals, but then you have to take it back to what you're doing. And you're like, okay, I'm doing something that within my peers, nobody's doing. So I can't expect them to fully support something that maybe at the end of the day, they try to put themselves in my shoes and it scares them or it makes them uncomfortable, So I really focus on trying not to take those things personal, even though sometimes they do cut a little deeper than most.
Yeah, you can't help but, and not even support. Like sometimes they can't even relate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I've dealt with a lot, but as far as the internet trolls go, you can tell who a lot of those pages, people just go on there just to talk their shit. And it's like a job for them.
Nothing better going on in their lives.
Yeah. They're in their mom's basement doing whatever. And I'm like, you know what? You live your life. If that's making you happy, thanks for the engagement. We'll call it even.
So I think I want our listeners to know as well, you're multifaceted and multi-talented, besides the Instagram videos you put out, the reels.
Glad somebody told me.
You have a podcast, that you do. You've also ventured into the stand-up world, correct? How's that going?
It's definitely things that I've done. I was really present on social audio. There's a lot of social audio apps and I've done other speaking engagements where I've, been in front of people, I've emceed events for women's groups in Philly when they've had their events. So I think kind of getting that initial fear of getting up in front of people and speaking, I think you got to get that out of your way first, because then comedy is a whole other beast within itself. Because not only do you have to get up in front of people, you also have to be funny.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you if you're not, So
nothing worse
I'm kind of glad, right? Before I even knew that comedy was for me, I'm glad that I did what I was doing and talking about, having, being a speaker for inspiration and doing all the jobs that I did in the past and I still do them. Because I think that's what helped me make this a little easier. So then it just comes down to, writing your shtick and just getting up there and doing your thing. But it was, for me, I'm the type that gets nervous beforehand, and then I get up there and like a switch flips and it just goes away. And then I get off the stage and I'm like, all right, let me
Throwing
go
up in a bucket.
Yeah. Kind of like that. Yeah. So that seems to be working out for me. If that's how it's going to be, I'm good with that. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But my first event was, we did Currens in Wildwood, and it was great, and I feel like you're your own worst critic. So
for sure.
Having that feedback from people was nice, saying, I did such a good job and that. So now I have an upcoming show in October with Joe Conklin. So
Where at?
I'm excited for that at Currens Tacony.
Okay. All right. Joe Conklin.
That's awesome.
Man.
Yeah.
That's a really unbelievable opportunity, I bet. That's really
right. And he's such a sweet guy.
Nice. That's awesome.
He became like a staple of like WIP. JoeConklin.com. Like, I was so nervous. I get nervous meeting people people that I respect for their professionalism and their accolades, right? Like if you're like a fan of somebody.
Yeah.
I get nervous meeting those people because what if they're like an actual asshole in real life? Then it kind of just ruins your whole vision of that person. So not that I thought he was an asshole, but I just always get nervous meeting people just in case they happen to be like an ass. But he was the sweetest man on earth. And he was
especially if you have to work with them too. Yeah.
Right. And then I'm like, oh my God, like what if he's a total you just like things go through your mind. But he was the sweetest man and he was so nice. He's like, so I heard you're a newbie, and very like just giving me the opportunity was, I'm forever grateful. So I can't wait. Should be a fun time.
Do you feel the need to separate your stand-up material from the Amanda material, from the Pam material, or do you think it's better to kind of let it all bleed into one another?
Yeah, I think it all bleeds in.
Yeah.
I've kind of like been sitting with that, like what's Pam and what's me, because we're stand-up wise, we're very similar. So I've been trying to keep Pam, more nostalgic, like thinking of things that even are before my time, that having the privilege of growing up with my grandparents kind of gives me that leverage of these are probably things that my parents would relate to more than kids my age, or
for sure.
adults my age. So having that leverage of growing up with my grandparents kind of gave me that material. And every once in a while I call my grandmom and have a conversation with her.
Yeah. You need a little more food. Yeah.
Yeah. Need some content. You call grandmom up.
Is she still smoking?
God bless her. Oh no, she don't. What's funny is my grandma doesn't smoke. She doesn't drink. She's a very Catholic, devout Catholic. My mom's a smoker and a drinker. She's her father's child. Yeah. My grandpa was the Pollock that drank and smoked and came from a family that owned bars, and he was always working at a bar. And yeah.
She was a nice little Catholic girl. Yeah.
My grandma was the nice Catholic girl. Yes. Yeah. Irish, German Catholic. Yeah.
Where did you go to high school? Little Flower?
Yes, I did. Little Flower.
Nice. I had a feeling.
How'd you know?
Because everybody from that area. So my family's originally from Texas.
Okay.
So I have a lot of family who went there. I want my one cousin, I don't know, she's Maura Johns. She went to Little Flower. She's probably 43. But yeah, I mean, I know. It's a big Port Richmond. It's a big Little Flower area, right? It feeds into Little Flower.
Port Richmond, yeah. I especially now because Hallahan's not around. But back in the day, and I will say, like, I think my generation was like the first, and maybe the years around me, where people started growing out of that. Because back in the day, whatever parish you went to, that determined where you went to high school. So my parish, St. Anne's, the girls always went to Hallahan and the boys always went to North Catholic.
Okay.
So you won't meet like anyone my mom's age. There were some that maybe went and branched out and went somewhere different. But for the most part, everyone went to either Hallahan or North from my parish. So it became more prominent as the years went on. Like people just went and did their own thing. But now like Port Richmond is mostly, I will say, either Little Flower. Some go to Hubert's, they get confused,
So Southwest was actually weird this way. So you remember I think it was like 1990 when open enrollment started in Catholic high schools. We were really young. But so I went to West Catholic. Massey lives 5 blocks from me, went to Newman. I have friends that went to Bonner. I have friends that went to Prendy. We have friends that went to Roman. Like everybody
Yeah.
from Southwest. Yeah.
I always knew the South Philly girls went to, maybe not Southwest, but South Philly girls went to Goretti.
We
Goretti,
have a lot of South girls went to Goretti. So usually it was if you were Italian. If you were Italian and living in Southwest, there was a chance you might be going to Goretti, especially if your mom was from South Philly.
Right. Yeah, it was depending on what year. Now, I remember this was like mid-90s. In my neighborhood, you couldn't get into certain parishes if you weren't of a certain nationality. Like if you weren't Italian, you couldn't get into this like if you go down Allegheny Ave in Port Richmond, there's about 5 churches, and they were all down the street. You can see them all. Like it's kind of cool now. Half of them are closed. It's sad. But because there was one for Irish, there was St. Albert's was Polish, Nativity was Irish. What else was there? Our Lady Help a Christian, that was Ukrainian. And then St. Anne's was Irish, and the MDG was Italian. So depending on your nationality, you had to be a part of that specific parish. Crazy time.
Yeah,
our grade school was like that in the beginning. Lady of Loretto, if one of your parents wasn't full Italian, you couldn't get in. Right. But then before we graduated, they changed those rules. They merged with other churches. That's when Bobby and I met. St. Mary's and Our Lady of Loretto merged. But yeah, it was like that in the very beginning.
I used to go to church all the time as a kid with my grandmother. Now it's just, you're busy with life and kids. And as much as we say that we probably should make time, but, I'll have a talk with Bob when I get up there.
Baptisms. Yeah. We wanted to ask about the magazine and talk about how that all happened. Like, how did they approach you, and tell us about the steps and the whole process.
I love Philly Current. So it's a subscription only magazine, and rightfully so, because the artistry in that magazine is like no other. It's not something that you would see that you could just grab off the rack and pay, like, at a corner store. The photography is like chef kiss. The written article, like when I got my article and read it, I literally cried. And I said to my husband, God forbid if anything happens to me, just read this for my eulogy, because it was just so beautifully written. And I think that's what sets it apart from other magazines. So I came across them through an event that I did with Diva Girl, and a couple of the people that were involved in that were in the magazine years prior. So I found them on Instagram and started following them, just forming that relationship. And they were following me, watching what I was doing. And then they just approached me and asked if I wanted to be featured in their magazine, to which I said, absolutely. I love your magazine. Like I've been a huge fan. I subscribe to it myself. I get it in the mail. So yeah, that's kind of how that went down, just forming that relationship and doing something that, whatever I promote or what I do, it's things that I actually use in my life, things that I do truly love. I try to keep it real like that. So, if it's something that I don't feel aligned with, I might have to say, it's not for me.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I think it's rare to just be a physical magazine in 2025 period. You know what I mean? But you were already subscribing to it. You guys were already following each other for a while, and then they reach out. I think that makes it so much better than if you were to just hear from them out of the blue. You know what I mean? Without being a fan and stuff like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I now, in today's day and age, unfortunately, and not that it's an unfortunate thing to build relationship, but, you just don't know who to trust anymore. So I think it's, to show your legitimacy, it's good to build relationship. Otherwise, you get something out of the blue, you might not, might end up being a scam or something that's, really not for you. So, I think relationship and building that relationship and networking is really where it's at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. We were happy to see that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun. And just being, so I took those pictures. I was trying to think, I had just had a photo shoot done for myself, and we went like all over. We did a little in South Philly, down by the stadiums. I got some water ice. Where else did we go? We went to the L stop, and then we did some in my neighborhood. So I went on my mom's steps, like on the block I grew up with. So for this magazine, I did my grandmother's steps, and it was a lot. I will say it was more emotional for me, just because I was very close to my grandparents. And I remember being like, in my 20s, which was like my hardest time. My early 30s was like a really hard time for me. And I remember sitting on those steps and not really knowing like if God had a plan for me. I was just so lost and I was a shell of a person. So, then taking those pictures on those steps and not saying like I made it or anything crazy like that, but it kind of brought me back to like, remember when, Amanda, remember when you were sitting on the steps and
Look
didn't
how
know
far,
what
yeah.
God had for you? Like, look what you're doing. Look at
It's
the
a full
progress that
circle.
you made in life. Like, be proud of yourself.
It's a full circle moment.
Right. Full circle. It was definitely a full circle moment. And, very nostalgic too, because I grew up like sitting on those steps with my grandparents or my grandfather. I was a grandfather's girl. Like me and him, he was my person and he's no longer here. He's the person that you see there. Those are his hats and that's our picture there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, to be on those steps, I actually didn't even sit like in the one spot on the step. The guy was like, sit here. I was like, no, I'll sit next to that because that was his spot. I left it open. And it was like he was sitting there with me in the picture. And he never knew that until afterwards. But yeah, it was a deep moment, I think, for me. So it was really, really a good time.
You also have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast? And tell us about how that came about and, what kind of guests you have on, what your theme is on the podcast. We'd love to hear about that.
So, as I said, she's evolved over the years. She's worked on herself. So now it's Amanda Yoa. It's very comedy based, very deep in the comedy, moments of like tough love. Let's be real. I'm going to give you what you need to hear, not maybe what you want to hear. Because, I pride myself in having a girl group in my personal life of women that are going to tell me how it is because I don't want to be surrounded by yes men, because I know that's not going to take you anywhere in life. So I always try to give those moments on my show and, just keep it funny, keep it light, be that escape where, people can just come and get away from the chaos of the world and just have a laugh, maybe take a trip back in time and maybe hear something that they needed that day. So I will say for the most part, a lot of my episodes are solo for now. I want to start taking it on the road. I'm going to start doing some episodes from our restaurant and kind of incorporate people as they come in the door, like on a whim, and just hear their take on whatever it is that I'm talking about. Because I got bored of just talking to myself. Like I'm sitting here every week, just having a conversation in my mind, acting like I'm talking to someone because I know someone's listening on the other end and they're probably in their head talking to me. But, that gets a little crazy after a while. I need that interaction. So I want to take it on the road and maybe start going to just doing like live events where people can come on, be a part of the show, maybe at a bar or a restaurant in the neighborhood and just have some fun doing it that way. But I will say for right now, a lot of my episodes are solo. During my summertime, I like to batch because I take summers off just to be present with my kids. So I will batch content creator series where I do interview and do guest episodes. So that was fun. I'll probably do that again this summer unless anything changes from now until then. But yeah, that's for the most part. I just love to yap and make people laugh.
I mean, of course, wife, mother, but you are a restaurant owner, a stand-up comedian, a podcaster, a social influencer. Where do you get, like, is it just like this creative force that's driving you to just get stuff out in any way, shape, or form? Or do you, like, where do you get the energy to kind of try and start to become great at all these different avenues?
I will say Starbucks kind of fuels me. That's a staple. But I think when it comes to having the energy, it would probably, I don't know where I would be in life without my husband. I will say as far as our restaurant is concerned, he's like the driving force of that, that gives me the space to help him out with things on the back end, take care of our home, take care of our kids. I was privileged before I started stepping into social media to just being a stay-at-home mom. And I don't mean to say it like just because that's a full-time 24/7 job,
for sure.
But it gave me that space to kind of sit with, well, what's for me in life? Because I know, we have the restaurant and it does well, but I also have a passion for me. So what is that? So, finding that and having him to support me and me to support him and his passions, I think is what really makes everything work. You got to have that support system, You're
testing a couple different things until you settle on a certain, like either podcasting or, Instagram or social or stand-up comedy until you find like that one lane that seems perfect for you? Or do you feel like a world where you're bringing yourself to all these different mediums is what's right for you right now?
Yeah, I've always been the type of gal to just throw a bunch of shit up against the wall and see what sticks. I've always been a
Yeah,
trial and error type of gal
sure.
of let me try this, nah, this ain't for me. Let me try that, nah, that ain't for me. I will say with podcasting, I feel for myself personally, it was a cart before the horse type of thing where I needed to build my influence on social media to get people to watch and listen to my show. And that's just for me. So I kind of did things a little in reverse for myself in the way that I've been, working and finding what was for me. Will I ever down the line incorporate things that are kind of like all encompassing? Maybe.
Yeah.
I see myself possibly having a show like like I'm already doing, where it's very comedy based, maybe taking it on the road, maybe not necessarily standing up with a mic, but maybe sitting at a desk and making it a whole entertaining, bit, guests that come in and out. And who knows? Who knows? I
Yeah.
got a lot up into this brain, but honestly, I feel what's worked for me, and this was a trial and error thing that I had to learn from the past, was have an idea, but don't get a chokehold on it, because then when you do, you end up cutting yourself off from so many other things that are happening around you for you that you should actually be doing. But you're so
Yeah.
focused on this one thing and you're like, it has to look like this and it has to be like this. And that may not even be something that's for you. It could be this thing over here you've been ignoring. And I learned the hard way that
Yes.
lesson. So, I have an idea, but I'm open to opportunity and just seeing where, enjoying the ride and seeing where it takes me.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to be flexible because like Bobby and I are struggling with that now, right? Like the theme of the podcast should be X and then Y happens and you're like, damn, we want to be able to talk about that. You know what I mean? So now it's X and Y. And then, but you're not leaving space for Z. And, that's the thing that we're struggling with now is like, if we, like he was saying about the Sopranos earlier, if we're exclusive on Sopranos, people who don't like Sopranos but used to like us prior may, start disappearing and stuff like that. But finding that balance between like giving the world who you are and what you have to offer versus whether they like it or if they feel like you're changing too often, you have to roll that dice and you have to find that balance for sure.
Yeah. And listen, if you're in that season of, switching it up, there's going to be people that you're going to lose. You may lose 10, you may gain 100 through what you're stepping into. So, don't look at it as what you're going to lose, look at it as what you're going to gain.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's more in alignment with you being able to effortlessly show up, then that's what you should be doing from the gate anyway.
Who is the other woman on Instagram with the blonde wig who's very popular? Do you know who I mean, Amanda? Have you reached out to her? Because you two could do a goddamn commercial.
I have not personally reached out to her. What's funny is we spoke years back. I wanted to have her on my podcast, and I don't know if she was caught up or busy. At the time, she was living in California.
Right.
So
I was going to say, wasn't she she was in England for a while or something too?
Yeah, and I think I don't know what she does that, allows her to travel or what have you, but she bounces around a lot, I think. Yeah, I did ask her to be on my podcast year back, and this was before I was even doing Pam. And, I told her, I loved her content. It was funny. It was, a lot of the things that she talked about, I could relate to. Was it the mom that I grew up with? No, but it was funny.
Yeah. Olivia E. Herman.
Yes. So there's a few people that will comment on my post and tag her and say, you should collaborate. And I will comment on that post and tag her and say, I'm open for a collaboration. And I don't ever hear anything. So for me, I've always learned and I've surrounded myself, again, going back to my social audio days, I've always been in rooms with people who are 3, 5, 7 steps ahead of the game. You'd be surprised who I've been around. But long story short, collaboration is key. And collaboration always over competition. That was one thing that I've learned and I've seen to be true through, even the collaborations that I'm doing now that I have in the works. Some of them I can't talk about yet, but they're going to be amazing. That's where everybody wins. It's through collaboration. You see it even in, when you make it big, comedians collaborating with each other, combining your audiences. It's a win-win situation. So I always try to keep that mindset. I'm always open to collaborating. If it's in alignment with my audience and I know it's something they would enjoy, would be more than happy to do it. And who knows, maybe later down the line, us two Philly moms will get together and have a day out on the prowl doing something around Philly. I don't know. I envision it and it would be incredible, but we'll see. I don't know. There's a part of me that wonders if maybe she feels, this is just my thinking. I'm not saying this is anything that she thinks, but, I just wonder if she feels like I'm stepping on her toes. But I try to set Pam apart because, like I said, like her version of the Philly mom is not the Philly mom that I grew up with. It's completely different. And, I tried to set Pam apart enough, just to give people, because I know that Philly mom doesn't represent all of us. If it's not the mom I grew up with, then I know a ton of other people that can say the same thing. Right. So I just hope there's no hard feelings there, but you got to do what you're called to do. And I love being able to show up and show out as Pam. And I think the more you hone in on just bringing your uniqueness to the table, there's room for everybody in what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and she's not the first person to put a wig on and impersonate a family member. You know what I mean?
Very true. Yeah. There's another one. There is another Philly mom. I forget her name. And if you go on her page, it says the first one to ever do it.
Is it Mary Pat?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Mary Pat she's Delco. She's a Delco mom. This woman has like short brown hair. She actually is a voice on, what is that one show? It's a cartoon where they all have the Philly accent. She has a part on that show. She's on that show now. She plays
Robot
one of the
Chicken?
characters, her voice. No, not Robot Chicken.
No.
I think it might be on Comedy Central. It's it comes on right after I think it's the same people that made The King of the Hill. Created that show. It's very Philly oriented. So whatever channel that is on, I'm the worst with TV. I don't even watch it. But whatever channel that's on, I think the same show. And I don't even know the name of the show.
She's one of the voice actors.
She's one of the voice actors on there. Yeah. So she made a name for herself doing her thing. So, and that's different from how I, do Pam. So we're all kind of different in our own unique way.
Yeah.
And there's other people that do, like Kristen, the hairdresser. She's a mom. She's from Staten Island. So me and her talking about getting together and doing something, but I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell us what's next for Amanda Yoa, to the extent that you can share. I know you said you have some stuff you can't really talk about. So stand up.
Yeah, we have the stand-up show the end of October at Currens Tacony. Come on out, get your tickets. You can check out that information. It'll be on my Instagram. My Instagram's It's Amanda Yoa. I have that coming up. My podcast airs weekly every Friday. Let me see what else.
You're on season 4 now? 4 or 5?
6.
6. Okay,
yeah.
6.
And
season 6.
What is the podcast on? Apple, Spotify?
It should be on every platform. Yeah. Apple, Spotify.
Okay. Audio and video?
Audio, YouTube. Yep. You can find me all across.
You're in the Philly Current magazine latest issue?
Yes, please go purchase the business issue of the Philly Current. Shout out to Eddie from the Philly Current. Love you, mean it. Let me see what else do I have going on. I'm sorry, I say
Pam has a business in parade floating in her near future.
Maybe, yes. Maybe I'll be on a
Thanksgiving's coming up. You got to talk to somebody about that.
Right, getting me on a float.
So you mentioned earlier that you're working on like rebranding and unifying everything. So where can everyone find all of your content? Do you have a dedicated website that kind of points people to everything, or? I do. Yeah. You can go to amandayoa.com, and it'll give you links to my social media, links to my hotline where you can call in. Please call in and talk to me. I actually have the funniest hotline call in this week that's going to be on my podcast. So I'm hoping people hear that and they're like, that's what she wants to hear. All right, nice. I got a story, and it'll just snowball from there. That's awesome. Yeah. So you have folks call into the hotline, you record that, and then you put it on a future episode or something like that. Yeah, I make it like a segment. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah, we had someone call in. Because this airs Friday. This will come out after this Friday. Mm-hmm. So someone called in and they told a story about how when they were in their 20s, they got drunk. They were down in Old City and they tried to break into Betsy Ross's house. And I said, that's funny. I'm like, there's just something with us Philly people. Like the minute we get a couple drinks in us, we're just the most patriotic people you'd ever want to meet.
And also, like, thank God we did not hang in the same circles, because if the both of us were together in that, we would definitely succeed it and we would both be felons. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on and making time for us. And we hope to be able to talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know when the show goes out. I'll promote it on my page. I'll tag you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll shoot you a text as soon as what we try to do. Like, we'll get a couple reels out, a couple short videos leading up to the episode, and then we'll do like a trailer, and then we'll keep you in the loop as soon as the full episode is about to come out.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much, Amanda. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.